associations, distinguished ambassadors and embassies representatives, government officials, partnering associations, sponsors, members of the board of directors of TTCSA, member associations of the TTCSA, ladies and gentlemen, a warm good morning to you. My name is Alicia Nichols, researcher and lecturer at the Trinidad Franfal Center of the UWIK Phil in Barbados. And it is my pleasure to be your moderator for this session on doing business with the Dominican Republic, the latest in the TTCSA series on doing business with the world. And this is an important topic because we're looking for new markets for our products to diversify our economies. And of course, we already have the CARICOM-DR agreement. This session is for you, and as such, I invite you to please leave your comments and questions in the chat so our distinguished panelists can address them. Distinguidos huéspedes, damas y caballeros, muy buenos días a ustedes. Bienvenidos. Me llamo Alicia Nichols, soy investigadora y profesora de la política del comercio internacional en el Trinidad Franfal Center de University of the West Indies aquí en Barbados. Para mí es un gran placer de ser la moderadora de este panel sobre cómo hacer negocios con la República Dominicana. Y es una cuestión muy importante para nosotros, ya que estamos buscando nuevos mercados para nuestros productos y para diversificar nuestras economías. Y ya tenemos un acuerdo de libre comercio, CARICOM-RD. Este panel es para ustedes, entonces les invito a colocar sus comentarios y preguntas en el chat para que nuestros distinguidos panelistas puedan atenderlas. I'll hand over now to Mr. Mark Edgehill, President of the TTCSA, for his welcome remarks. Mr. Edgehill, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Ambassador Wellington Bencosme, Ambassador of the Dominican Republic to Trinidad and Tobago, all distinguished ambassadors and embassies representatives, government officials, our presenters, partnering associations, our sponsors, members of the board of directors of the TTCSI, member associations of the TTCSI, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And to follow your lead, bienvenidos a todos. I am very pleased to welcome you to the latest installment of the TTCSI's Doing Business with the World series. In the spotlight today, as mentioned, is the Dominican Republic, and our heartfelt thanks to His Excellency, Wellington Bencosme, and his team at the Embassy of the Dominican Republic to Trinidad and Tobago for all they have done to make the webinar possible today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago are partners in trade and also enjoy very friendly diplomatic relations. For more than 40 years, the Dominican Republic has had observer status in CARICOM, and over the years has indicated its interest in becoming a full member of the regional grouping. In addition, since 1992, Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic have worked towards regional prosperity under CARIFORUM, which is the Caribbean Forum, a subgroup of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, which engages in economic dialogue and cooperation with the European Union. And at the multilateral level, both our countries are members and partners in the ACS, which is the Association of Caribbean States, CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, and the OAS, Organization of American States, and the United Nations, to name a few. In terms of trade between our two countries, in 2001, the CARICOM Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement came into force in Trinidad and Tobago. The agreement is designed to strengthen the commercial and economic relations among signatory countries and grants access to over 8 million consumers in the Dominican Republic market, as well as eliminates taxes on goods imported and exported. It paved the way for healthy trade activity for the first 2 decades of the millennium, with the balance of trade resting comfortably around $2.2 billion between 2015 and 2020. The data shows that in 2020, the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, Trinidad and Tobago exported $302 million worth of products to the Dominican Republic. In the same year, the Dominican Republic exported 254 million US dollars to Trinidad and Tobago, most of the products exported to Trinidad to the Dominican Republic were glass bottles, foodstuff, and urea, with the top imports from the DR being fruits, tobacco, and plastic packaging. Understandably, in 2021, there was a drop in trade figures given the state of the global economy at the time, which was still reeling from the impact of the first year of the pandemic. In addition to shipping and logistics challenges, lockdowns in countries, and some economic activity literally becoming extinct happened almost overnight. The United Nations Comtrade Database on International Trade reports that in 2021, Trinidad and Tobago's exports to the Dominican Republic were valued at 101 million US dollars. The bulk of that came from the petrochemical sector, namely fertilizers, worth 51.38 million US dollars. Also, petroleum gas valued at 13.5 million US dollars. And another sizable export, along with prepared cereals valued at 8.47 million US dollars. The Dominican Republic's exports to Trinidad and Tobago, however, in 2021 were valued at 47.8 million US dollars. And that was the main product that we saw imported from the Dominican Republic, which was flavored water, beverages worth 4.63 million US dollars, plastic lids valued at 4.42 million US dollars, and bananas valued at 4.24 million US dollars. With respect to trade and services between both our countries, definitely this is where the opportunities for growth presents itself. We in Trinidad and Tobago have much to learn about the Dominican Republic and developing and strengthening our services sector. Which made up just 11% of our gross domestic product in 2021, while in the Dominican Republic, the services sector accounted for 56% of the gross domestic product in the same year, with the tourism sector and internal trade being dominant. Ambassador, I know you have a vision, which I share with you, of increased travel and connectivity between our countries via an air services agreement or an open skies agreement, which would significantly benefit our respective tourism, creative and cultural industries, all important subsectors in the overall services sector, providing employment and hundreds of people and businesses opportunities to innumerable entrepreneurs of small and mid-sized firms operating therein. At TTCSI, we see our services sector SMEs as the businesses, entities best placed to accelerate economic growth for Trinidad and Tobago. I am sure that this was the case in the Dominican Republic, which helped you achieve that enviable milestone of having more than half of your GDP coming from the services sector, which is our aim as well. We at TTCSI are supporting our SMEs with the National Services Exporters Portal, otherwise known as the NSEP, which helps Trinidad and Tobago services sector firms be seen and make connections with services sector firms in other countries. And it is a critical pillar of the Doing Business with the World series. I am pleased to advise that the portal is now open to all regional and international firms, and I must once again urge all services providers to take advantage of this opportunity to register and derive the benefits being offered by the services portal. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend heartfelt thanks once again to His Excellency Wellington Ben-Cosme and his team at the Embassy of the Dominican Republic for all they have done to make this webinar today possible. Your Excellency, we at TTCSI look forward to a long and fruitful friendship with you and the team as we work towards deepening business relationships for the prosperity of services entrepreneurs in both our countries. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, vámonos. Let us join our facilitators and learn how to go about doing business with the Dominican Republic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edgehill, not just for your very comprehensive welcome and your call to action, but setting the scene on the current trade between Trinidad and Tobago and the DR and ways in which we could diversify and build on the existing trade. I'll now introduce His Excellency, Mr. Wellington Bencosme, Ambassador of the Dominican Republic. Ambassador Bencosme is an economist and diplomat with over 20 years of experience in foreign affairs, international trade, development, public policy, government, and security. He has held several senior positions in private and public sectors, as well as in academia. And he was appointed to the Foreign Service of the Dominican Republic in 2004, where he has held several positions. And on April the 1st, 2021, he was credited as Ambassador of the Dominican Republic to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Bienvenido, embajador. Usted tiene la palabra.
Muchísimas gracias, Ms. Nichols. Thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. We are truly excited. Let me start by thanking TTCSI for allowing us to have this opportunity to present this showcase this doing business with the Dominican Republic. I know that's as Mark Edgehill mentioned, that this is actually something we've been in talk for a while. Our appreciation to Ms. Bashti Guyadin for the opportunity. We're very excited about what we have prepared for you today, to all the attendees, to all the participants. Greetings to my colleagues from other embassies who are actually also participating in this workshop. To government officials, as I mentioned, excited about what we have for you today. I'm not going to expand a lot into what the experts are going to be touching on later on. So my regards to Elena Rosario, who's going to be presenting to you. She's the Director for Trade and Policy of our Ministry of Trade. We're very excited to have Pro Dominicana be represented by the Director of Foreign Investment, a good friend, Marcial Smester, and also Ms. Tayana Mora, good friend, colleague, current president of the Latin American Association of Service Exporters. So I think you're going to be pleased to what the diversity and the complementarity of the presentation that we're going to put forward. In that note, I'd like to say, highlight a little bit to what Mark mentioned earlier. Let's start with the fact that we are, the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago, are very strong partners in all the senses. I mean, we have a long relationship, diplomatic relationship that dates back to 1968. So we are, again, strong partners, not only at the level of being Caribbean nations with strong political ties, but also on the trade matters. I mean, it is true. Mark did mention that, throughout the past from 2015 to 2021, combined trade between the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago amounted to about $200 billion US dollars. Of that, through that period of time, most of that amount is imports from Trinidad and Tobago in the forms of gas, petroleum, urea, and other petrochemicals. And for the Dominican Republic, we have increasingly subsequently increased the exports of our products to Trinidad and Tobago, which is actually a very positive thing as we are looking into more diversified products. Mark did mention, and it's true, that the main products that we have been exporting from the Dominican Republic to here are mostly the bananas and the avocados that you see in the different supermarkets here, but also plastics and also different kinds of non-alcoholic beverage, but also some different kinds of sauces and food preparations, which have been the composition of our exports. In the past, we've seen, not only at the level of these products. I mean, we also seen an interesting increase in the number, and I'm glad that Mark did mention. I appreciate Mark mentioning the importance of connectivity. You're gonna see in all my interventions that I always highlight the importance of this. We do currently have good connectivity at the level of maritime connectivity. I mean, we have every week we have a number of vessels that do transport goods from our country to Trinidad and Tobago with destiny to both Point Lisas and Port of Spain, and a very, very efficient time frame between 2 days and 20 days, depending on the route. And again, the biggest challenge that we have, and again, kudos to Mark for highlighting that, is the fact that we need better air transportation, better air connectivity. At this point, I always keep saying that connectivity is the key to facilitate trade. Once you have that connectivity, things start to happen. As far as business people connecting to each other, figuring out opportunities, figuring out challenges as well. So I think if we can eventually come to term and have that connectivity within the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago, it will be a great thing. We're talking about reducing the time of traveling to about 2 hours as opposed to half a day, which is what it takes if you're doing the connections currently in Miami or Panama. But I think it is an important trend what we have right now. We are diversifying in terms of our relationship. We used to, as mentioned, we used to import a lot of gas, a lot of petroleum from Trinidad and Tobago. We're looking at other products, and hence the importance of this workshop, in which we can actually induce some interest on the part of the business community from both countries to explore other opportunities. I think if you look at the numbers that for the past 3 years, for example, last year 2021, we have an increase of about 22% increase of our exports to Trinidad and Tobago, again, of different products. And 2022, we had an increase of 35% of our export to Trinidad. And this year, so far, we have accumulated about $38 million of exports. So I think, it is important that we look at those other sectors. Something important, very, very interesting that was highlighted is the structure of our economy, above our economy, in which services, hence this is the main, one of the main discussions that we're having today. Services represent a large portion of the economy on both countries. And it's very surprising that in terms of percentage-wise, they're pretty similar. In the case of the Trinidad and Tobago, services is close to 55%, and it's very similar to the case of the Dominican Republic. As Mark mentioned, mostly in the case of the Dominican Republic, we have a large, as you are aware, a large tourism industry. Last year, and perhaps it can be confirmed by my colleagues later on. Last year we received approximately 8.5 million. What was the target? Above 8 million tourists visited the Dominican Republic last year. So last numbers I checked, our room offer was north of 90,000 hotel rooms. So as you can see, and obviously that trickles down on a lot of businesses that do depend on, that do supply or that do provide services to the tourism industry. So again, services is a big component. I remember having the discussion with TTCSI, with Mark, with Bashti, since the beginning of the initiative. We at the embassy have been supporting it, and we think it is a key. It's a key industry for us to be trying to find alliances, to trying to find synergies between our countries. I was happy to find out about a recent visit, for example, by the film industry of Trinidad and Tobago to the Dominican Republic, and sort of to explore what have conversation between the industries to see what can be done, to learn from each other's experience. I think that kind of interaction must be nurtured. And it is precisely through this kind of initiative that I think we can move forward and find common opportunities. Again, I'm looking forward to the presentation from my colleagues at the Ministry of Industry, because they can talk to you about the different initiatives that we have in order to facilitate the trade in services, but also obviously from Pro Dominicana, which I'm always keen to promote as the one window stop and of the Dominican Republic for many of your needs. Obviously, you know, my message to the participants who are currently online is that to reach out. I mean, it was very well put by Ms. Nichols in the fact that, you know, we take advantage of this scenario, make questions. I mean, and if you don't have the questions right now, do follow up with us. I mean, we are the embassy are here to assist all the new companies that are, you know, have an interest in doing business with the Dominican Republic, and the same obviously for our companies to enter the Trinidad and Tobago market and to explore opportunities. So reach out to the embassy, and you know, we put you in contact with the right authorities in the DR, with Pro Dominicana, with our Ministry of Industry and Commerce. And you know, I'm also happy to again that my good friend Tayana Mora, who's you know, an expert in the region, and you all, many of you know Tayana for as you know, like as someone who has been around for a while, and she can. I'm looking forward to her inputs and on the precisely on the culture aspect of doing business with the Dominican Republic, as she has a wealth of knowledge in this area. So again, and then very excited about this workshop series. I'm looking forward, as Mark mentioned, about the Porter. I think this is something I'm glad that is coming to fruitful. I think it will be a great tool for our companies to register. I mean, if you know, if we can create a platform for companies to exchange and to find each other, basically based on the potential opportunities, I think it will be a great thing. So with that, I appreciate, you know, extend my appreciation once again to TCCSI again, and convey to you our you know, our disposition, and to please feel free to reach out to the embassy. And so let's see, let's work on finding opportunities for our companies. So thank you once again.
Muchísimas gracias, Embajador. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your remarks, including reiterating the need for better connectivity. And you touched on the importance of culture to this whole discussion. And I'm definitely also looking forward to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the main course, and we have heard from our two speakers so far that the DR is a very promising market, a very diversified economy, and of course, one of the Caribbean's leading tourism destinations. And just to share a few figures with you and to reiterate why this is so important and what our speakers will get into shortly. According to World Bank data, DR has a population of over 11 million people. That's a large market. A real GDP growth of 5.6% on average over 2005 and 2014. This is according to the IMF's World Economic Outlook, the latest one, and GDP growth, real GDP growth of 4.9% in 2022. So this is a very dynamic economy. It also accounted for most of the growth in FDI inflows to the Caribbean, increasing 25% to $4 billion, according to UNCTAD's World Investment Report 2023. And to help us to learn more about this very promising market, we have an all-star panel for you guys this morning. And I will read out their bios in the order in which they'll be presenting. But just to let you know, we're going to have Ms. Elena Carolina Rosario Rodriguez, who is the Director of Trade Policy, Ministry of Industry, Trade, and MSMEs of the DR. We have Mr. Marcial Smister, who is the Director of Foreign Investment at Pro Dominicana, and Ms. Diana Mora, who is the President of Latin American Association of Services Exporters, ALES. So Elena Carolina Rosario Rodriguez has a law degree from the Ibero-American University, a master's in international law from the Higher Institute of Law and Economics of the University of Barcelona, and she's a specialist in trade policy. She has more than 14 years of experience in the areas of foreign trade, commercial disciplines, dispute resolution, investment, among a wide host of other things. She's been an international panelist and guest speaker at various organizations, including the WTO, UNCTAD, ECLAC, UNCITRAL, and she also has published various works highlighting trade and services in international agreements, among other things. And her works have served as the basis for her most recent project, the first national strategy for the export of modern services for the Dominican Republic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you would join me in welcoming virtually Miss Elena Carolina Rosario Rodriguez, who will be our first presenter. Usted tiene la palabra. I'm sorry, Ms. Rodriguez, you're muted.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols, and also the Ambassador and the Minister at Health, and also to the TTCSI for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here to share with you a little about the Dominican Republic efforts towards promotion, development of the modern services sectors, a high priority of our ministry and our lens of policy actions. My name is Elena Rosario. I'm the Trade Policy Director at the Ministry of Industry, Trade and SMEs, Dominican Republic. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to the Trinidad Tobago Coalition of Services for organizing spaces like this, as well as the Dominican Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago for the support. Many thanks. There is a country in the world placed in the same path as the sun, said the Dominican Republic, referring to the Dominican Republic as an island filled with colors of kind, hospitable people who always lend a helping hand and makes the foreign feels as though they have arrived home. Together with the warmth of our people, the DR has been a stable economic performance for the past years. Even with the effects of the COVID-19, in 2022, the GDP growth as 4.9%, with around $4 billion of foreign direct investment and a growing labor force. In terms of the international trade, the Dominican Republic has been sophisticating its exported products, moving from mainly agricultural goods toward those of higher added value. Besides 2021, as we know, it was a difficult year and a lot for the DR and all the years. The export have been showing international growth every year. That's why one of the DR's champions strategy have been the special economic zones, attracting around $362 million in 2022, with 88 parks and around 192,000 jobs created. The main products with opportunities in our special economic zones are medical devices, pharmaceutical products, as well as electrical and electronic devices. What else can we offer? The Dominican Republic is not only about numbers. The Dominican Republic is filled with other advantage. We have a strategic geographic location that facilitates business with all of the American economies. Modern roads and ITC infrastructure, competitive human capital, abundant natural resources, economic, social, and political stability, and also preferential access to over 50 countries through 6 trade agreements that we have. And last but not least, a strong legal framework of wisdom and incentives. After this overall look at the DR, it is time to get into services. Services have represented the most dynamic sector of the world trade, being an important part of the development for the world economies. Services represent around 65% of global GDP, according to the Dominican
Ms.
Republic.
Rosario, I'm very sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you, but your audio is a bit unclear. We're getting some comments in the chat. I thought it was just mine at first. Is there any way you could adjust your mic a bit? I'm very sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Thank you. Can you hear me well?
I'm hearing you a bit better now.
Hi, Miss Rosario. Maybe you can take off the camera for the connection to be a little more stronger.
Okay. Yes. You hear me well right now?
Yes,
Okay, I'm hearing you a bit better.
Okay, perfect. I guess it's the connection, but I will try to. Okay. So as I said, in the Dominican Republic, services represent around 66% of the GDP and 74% of formal employment. Services sectors total the $11 billion in 2022 for a growth rate of 40% compared with 2021. As we see, we are in growing every year. Call centers take over 22,000 jobs. The sector of TICs of ITC providers 5,500 jobs, and video games 2,000 jobs. This by its own is enough proof of the importance of services in the economy of the Dominican Republic. Mother services can be defined as those services traded mainly over the internet, such as telecoms, computer and information services, financial and insurance services, business services, and all that related to the orange economy. In 2021, we launched the first national strategy for the export of modern services, designed to support non-traditional services sectors, especially those supported by ITC and the creative industry. There are 5 pillars that surround the strategy. There are, in first one, capacity building. Second one, investment and financing. The third one, regulatory and institutional framework. Fourth, business ecosystem. And the last but not least, market promotion. The first pillar, capacity building, skills through training and knowledge transfer to increase productivity, promote innovation, and increase employment. Our second pillar defines the normative and regulatory instruments as well as the policies and institutional frameworks necessary for the development of the modern services sectors. Our third pillar, the investment and financing pillar, contemplates the approach to public and private policy, initiative and actions that favor access to finances for the sector, including the design of specialized financial products, fundraising for the development of the strategy, and public-private operating mechanisms. This pillar focuses on creating the condition for an ecosystem of added value, stimulating research and analysis of global trends in the sector, allowing the incorporation of cutting-edge elements and the creation of new services and their constant updating, and that allows a system of mutual and continuous reinforcement. The last pillar focuses on the analysis of strategies to increase the participation of Dominican services in international markets and the attraction of FDI. To gather the needed information of the various sectors englobed in the modern services sectors, we have created public, private, and academic alliance to establish working groups. These working groups are Orange Economy, ITC, Professional Services, Statistics, and Logistics and Transport. There are 76 actions within the strategy. 16 regarding the ITC sector, 14 for orange economy, 3 related to professional services and statistics, 2 in terms of logistics and transport, and 38 cross-cutting action involved the 5 working group. One thing that I want to inform to you is that with those working groups, we have a lot of alliance with the private sector for developing a strategy that had the necessity of those sectors. One of the benefits that we have and already resulting from this strategy is job creation, FDI attraction, promotion of creativity and innovation, export diversification, access to international markets, and also the capacity building. As an example, we can mention the up and coming cinematographic activity in the Dominican Republic. In 2022, 125 foreign and national projects were filmed with over 5,000 new jobs created and an investment around $270 million. Paramount Pictures, Netflix, Universal, Lionsgate, and Disney are some of the companies that have been filming in the Dominican Republic. Another important branch of modern services for us are the esports. According to the Dominican Federation of Electronic Exports, in the Dominican Republic, we have around 143 gamers with an audience over 5 million. Some of the top achievements of the past 2.5 years of implementation are creation of the Modern Services category within the National Awards for Export Excellencies by AdoExpo. AdoExpo is a national association for exporters. Elaboration of an action plan of the creative industry together with the World Organization for Intellectual Property. WIPE, creation for the first National Creative Directorate. Strengthening of the National Committee of Services. Also, we have the capacity building in services topics impacting over 2,400 people. Coordination and co-hosting of the first National Congress for the Creative Industry that names RD Naranja. And we have a program that we have a scholarship for young entrepreneurs that needs to be support in the creative sectors. The last year we have like 4 scholarship that we gave to those younger entrepreneurs in those industries. As we all said, perhaps you're thinking, well, this is a lot of information, and it is. So here I want to leave with you some digital platform free for use that you can access to find any type of data related to the Dominican Republic trade and macroeconomic performance. Datacomex RD is the first national interactive panel for trade statistics. Export potential map and market access map. There are 2 ITC platforms for the DR where you can find the opportunities for export as well as the tariff and non-tariff measure to import and export from the DR. Precios Justos, it's a platform where you can find the prices for the main commodities consumed divided by supplier. Industrias RD, it's a platform with all the statistics available for the local manufacturing industry. So feel free to interact with those panels of trade statistics. Other sources of information that we are here in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and SMEs, and also other source of information that we have in the whole government is Central Bank Dominicana that accompanied us today, Customs, the National Statistics Office, as well as the General Directorate of Internal Taxes. And of course, here you can download the National Strategy for the Export of Modern Services, so you can read and explore it as you like. I would like to close highlighting that we are ready to give you the best of the Dominican Republic, our people, our culture, an agrarian economy based on a favorable business environment, social stability, transparent and efficient processes, as well as a strong legal framework. In the Dominican Republic, you have an ideal partner to create win-win solutions for all. Thank you very much for your time.
Muchísimas gracias, Señora Rosario Rodriguez. Really great presentation, and it was great hearing about your national strategy, export strategy for national strategy for the export of modern services. My apologies. And I'm sure that Ms. Goyadeen would have been really excited to hear about this, because this is something that's very important for us in the English-speaking Caribbean as well. Thank you so much for highlighting the 5 pillars, talking about the benefits of this strategy, highlighting the film projects, and also the data sources. One of the things that I've always found fascinating about the DR is that it's so easy to get data there compared to other parts of the region. And I must applaud TTCSI for the work that it's doing with regard to its services export portal. So I'll turn over now to Mr. Marcial Smester. And Mr. Smester is going to give us the investment site. So Mr. Smester is the director of the foreign investment at Pro Dominicana, and he began his professional trajectory 27 years ago within the financial sector in the Dominican Republic, in the largest insurance company in the Caribbean and Central America. And it was there he spent most of his formative years. And for the next decade, he has managed several multinational companies and projects locally and internationally, including the setting up and franchising of an Israeli retail chain in the US. So, Mr. Smester, we hand over to you. Le doy a usted la palabra.
Muchísimas gracias, Alicia. Thank you very much, Alicia. Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for this space. His Excellency, Ambassador Wellington Bencosme, Mr. Mark Edgehill, President of TTCSI, and all of our colleagues, fellow panelists. Elena, great presentation. Congratulate you. And Ms. Diana Mora, which will come after me as well. And everybody that's here that's supporting this webinar, will appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we hope that we can, highlight and leave you with a lot of, interest in the Dominican Republic and strengthening and deepening our relationship and our commercial ties. So now I will begin with a small video that can more or less summarize a lot of the things and strengths that we have in the Dominican Republic. So let me share my screen and let me put the video so that you can, guys, hope you enjoy it. Let me see. Put a full screen. Here we go.
This constant desire to conquer. This constant desire to succeed. This reflex to calculate everything. This reflex to analyze everything. What's needed? What's coveted? What's possible? Focusing to the essential. It looks like a deep learning curve, a natural evolution. Levels of skills, levels of happiness, levels of aspiration. So, years finish. The sky is without frontiers. My old dreams come back to life. achieving my objectives, advantages, privileges. I'm the nail. How much difference can it make? All these projects, all these ideas, all these born-again dreams. So many words that should remind me that it's how I get there that is most important. When nothing seems to be moving, I see new beginnings.
I hope you enjoyed that. And now let's go and dive into the presentation directly. So you've heard from Ambassador Wellington Bencosme. You've also heard from Elena and many of the things that they both pointed out. But it sounds like a cliche, but really Dominican Republic is a land full of opportunities. As although we are an island and maybe not not a large island, maybe in the Caribbean, but not a worldwide, but yet we have so many things to offer. Here just to show you our country brand and the 5 pillars that support our country brand: our citizenship for our people, our culture, tourism, which is our main sector, investment, and exports. And these are 2 of the pillars that we handle through the Export and Investment Center of the Dominican Republic, Pro Dominicana. Just some data for you to know. The Dominican Republic is the #1 destination of foreign direct investment in Central America and the Caribbean. We're also the #1 destination with the best tourism performance in 2022 as per Fort Worth Keys. We are the #1 destination of renewable energy in foreign direct investment in Central America and the Caribbean. We also have the top infrastructure in Central America and the Caribbean in the quality of their highways, ports, airports, as well as telecommunications. And in 2022, we received a recognition from the World Tourism Organization as the #1 country in the world in the recovery of tourism post the pandemic, COVID-19. I like to highlight this graph because although you've seen some economic data, this graph shows how the Dominican Republic has evolved. And you will see that between 1992 and 2021, the Dominican Republic was the leading economy in economic growth for its GDP in all of Latin America and the Caribbean, including economies such as Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, much bigger economies. Over the last 50+ years, we've averaged an annual average growth of over 5% of its GDP. So we've been very steady and stable in our economic growth. And that's one of the main factors that the Dominican Republic provides stability to investors. And Ambassador Bencosme mentioned as well our connectivity. Well, we can say that we're a blessed country because we are right smack in the middle, in the heart of the Americas. So, so we're in a great place, very close to the largest consumer market in the world, which is the United States. And we have extraordinary connectivity. We have currently 12 commercial cargo ports. We have actually 18, but 6 are for specific uses. But we have currently 12 commercial cargo ports. We have 8 international airports, all fully operational. And there's 1 additional airport, so we're going to have 9 by 2025, which is going to be built in the area of Cabo Rojo, Pedernales, right down the southwesternmost part of the island, right there. We have also 5 cruise terminals in fully operational mode, and there are 2 new terminals that are in the process of being built. One in Arroyo Barril, Samaná, right there, where you see the little arm to the right, and also in Cabo Rojo as well, Pedernales. So very shortly, we're going to have 7 cruise terminals fully operational. Our connectivity in 2022, we received more than 118,000 commercial flights, more than 320 daily flights, more than 350 operators, And we had more than 50.4 million registered passengers, entry and exit as well. But that would include also Dominicans, not simply non-residents. And this is just for you to see, because of our location and unique and privileged location, the logistics connectivity, air and sea transit times, more or less. We're basically an hour and a half by plane to Miami, for example, and by sea. That's from the southern ports, our most important ports in Caucedo and Jaina. But for example, the port of Manzanillo, which is in our northwesternmost part of the country, and it's the closest access point to the U.S., the connectivity will be reduced by 1 day, a day and a half by cargo ships reaching Miami, the port of Miami. And here you can see other places around the world. The Dominican Republic probably is the best option for logistics and distribution centers in the Caribbean region. There's especially regulatory framework, Decree 75522, which allows our ports to act as logistics centers and will allow companies to establish themselves in the ports as primary zones that they can store merchandise for up to a year without paying any tariffs nor taxes. And you can do some remerchandising, rebranding, consolidation of all the cargo, and minor transformations without any major, change, and then re-export. And it's all free of tariffs or taxes in that sense. And we have some companies like Ambev, IKEA, and Mondelez that use these ports as primary zones for them to redistribute. A lot of them to the Caribbean, others to Central America, others to Europe, and the United States as well. And also our ports in Caucedo and Manzanillo, for example, have depth greater than 17 meters, which means they have penile capacity. I mean, any vessel, the biggest vessels that come through the Americas can go into those ports. You probably saw in the video there that we have preferential market access to over 1.2 billion consumers worldwide, and that's due to 6 major trade agreements that we have currently operating. The DR-CAFTA with the United States and Central America, the CARICOM and CARIFORUM, which also includes the UK, the EPA with the European Union, and many other, partial agreements that we have in a generalized system of preferences with many other countries around the world. We have high quality human talent, and that's very important for when investors want to come into the Dominican Republic, because you need a skilled labor force here. We have over 7,200 ICTS graduates, over 41,500 business and economic sciences professionals, over 11,400 engineers, over 12,000 health professionals, and over 72,000 English immersion graduates from programs in the last 5 years. I mean, and in the last 2 years, we have over 157 professional graduates. The Dominican Republic has over 48 higher education centers, which means universities, specialized and technical institutes, and it always will come with a government support. Regarding foreign direct investment in the Dominican Republic, we are a recipient of over 57 countries. Some of the world's most important organizations like the International Monetary Fund, Standard & Poor's Global, Fitch Ratings, Bank of America, have established the Dominican Republic is a great place to invest, a very safe place to invest. Here are some key data. For example, the total foreign direct investment flows over the last 10 years is over $27.7 billion. In 2021, we achieved $3.2 billion in foreign direct investment. And we surpassed that and reached a historic high in 2022, over $4 billion, 4,010,000 to be exact, which was 25% higher than in 2021. And also, we were over $1 billion over our closest competitor as a country during 2022. In 2023, as you can see, we are $369 million. From January to September, 3 quarters of the year, we are expecting to go over our historic high. And it's the first time in our history that we've been, 2 consecutive years over $3 billion, much less 3 consecutive years, and hopefully 2 consecutive years over $4 billion in foreign direct investment. This is more or less to show you a glimpse of how the foreign direct investment is constituted. Over the last 10 years, for example, tourism is our major sector with over 27% of the foreign direct investment, commerce, 19%, real estate, 16%, energy, 11%, free zones, 9%, mining, 8%, etc. Now, if we take the last 2 years, for example, energy, especially renewable energy, has been escalating. And for example, in 2022, renewable energy became the second most important sector in foreign direct investment, tourism the first, and it's very well possibly in 2023, energy will surpass tourism as the top foreign direct investment sector, as per the stats we have for January to June. This is just to show you a glimpse of some of the foreign direct investment companies that are established in Dominican Republic, many big brand multinational companies that you've seen everywhere in the world. Foreign direct investment. We have a particular and special law regarding foreign direct investment, which offers, national equal treatment for foreign investors as they were national investors. So there's no differentiation there. Also provides the liberalization of dividends and the repatriation of capital, and also grants a residency for investment for the shareholders, their top executives and specialized technicians as well. These are some of the strategic sectors that we have in Dominican Republic currently, stipulated and working on: agriculture, technology, free trade zones or free economic zones as they're called now, solid waste, renewable energy, real estate, integral special border development zone, mining, tourism, film industry. We don't have enough time, so we're not going to go into all of them, but we will highlight some of the most important sectors, of course, starting with tourism, our most important sector in the economy. And it's so important because tourism is a motor, it's an engine that activates all sectors. As tourism grows, it will demand more of the agricultural sector, it will demand more of the energy sector, it will demand more infrastructure, it will, motorize and energize the whole economy. These are data from 2022. For example, 2022 we reached historic highs in tourism. We received over 8.5 million tourists overall, around 7.2 by air, 1.3 by cruise. The tourism revenue was also a historic high, $8.6 billion in revenue, over 365,000 jobs generated from tourism, and an occupancy rate of more than 71%. Our tourism sector, for example, and its grants several incentives as well for investors, like 100% tax exemption on income tax, building permits, purchase of land, equipment, materials, and furniture necessary for the first installation of operations. It's basically a 15-year window for those incentives to comply with. And it's very important because it grants projects to establish themselves and start generating on their own, and recover the investment made. Also, this is very important because for 2023, okay, we are going to surpass again historic highs. For example, between January and June 2023, we had received 5.4 million arrivals, and 1.3 of them came by cruise. So we reached our historic high in cruise tourism. From 2022, we reached it already at mid-year in 2023. And the expectation is that we will receive over 10 million tourists or non-residents in 2023, which will be a historic high and will almost be one-to-one with our population, more or less. And the occupancy rate in 2023 is around 75%, way higher. And that is due also because many hotels are still remodeling and restructuring that are not open. And it's, it's a figure that is counted into that right then and there. We have many types of tourism as well. We've developed many types of tourism, real estate tourism, very, very key, very important. And it has an impact on the foreign direct investment in the real estate area as well, in real estate market. Sports marina tourism, cruise tourism, which continues to strengthen and grow, and with more ports and terminals that are being habilitated in the Dominican Republic, it will certainly continue to grow. Golf tourism. I mean, we have over 30 golf courses, so very high quality in the Dominican Republic. We have 4 of the top 10 golf courses in all of the region, including Mexico right now, including the top 2 golf courses, and all PGA sanctioned, and some PGA tournaments are played in Dominican Republic currently. We have fishing tourism and medical tourism as well. And in medical tourism, we are the #1 country in the world, in the Caribbean, Sorry, number 1 in the Caribbean, number 2 in all of Latin America, and number 19 in the world. As you can see here by Fort Worth Keys, the Dominican Republic in 2022 was the best performing destination. Number 2, Turkey, and so on and so forth. But you can see how we could continue to reach new highs. And very important for you to know, I mean, the way our tourism has continued to develop, because we were strong, but now we are much stronger. But that continued trust that we've been receiving from the investors and also from the tourists themselves, what has a lot to do with an alliance that has been made, a public-private partnership that has been made between the private sector and the public sector. When in 2020, when the pandemic hit and the new government took over, the authorities with the private associations and all the hotel owners sat down and talked. And the authorities understood that the experts is the private sector, the owners, the hotel owners. So they asked for their help and say, what do we need to do? And listen to them and executed a strategy combined that everybody unanimously agreed upon. And that's why we recovered so quickly from COVID. And that's why our tourism continues to increase and develop and strengthen. Renewable energy, as I mentioned, right now becoming, regarding foreign direct investment, one of the top sectors. Number 2, possibly number 1 this year. I mean, we are dependent on foreign oil, so we don't produce currently, at least not right now. So we have to import it, and that puts a strain on our economy, or at least, doesn't allow us to even grow more and be more stable, more solid. So now we are diversifying into it. And we are going more and more, taking advantage of what we have, which is a lot of sun, a lot of wind. So why not take advantage of that and produce clean energy at the same time, and comply with the new economies, green economy, orange economy, as well as reduce carbon emissions in the overall sense. I mean, we are signatories of the Paris Accord. So we have a commitment for 2030 to reduce total CO2 emissions by 27% by 2030. Our objective is that our energy matrix, for example, by 2025, become 25% of all energy issued and produced in the Dominican Republic be renewable energy, sun and wind, basically. And by 2030, 30% of the energy matrix be sun and wind overall. In 2020, it was basically 7%. By 2022, last year, it closed at 16%. So we are going fast into reaching our objectives. And here is the overall targets that you can see. In hydro, we want to reach by 2030, 1,100 megawatts of production, in biomass, 300 megawatts, wind, 850 megawatts, and photovoltaic, sun energy, 1% of the total demand, more or less. Financial, this is just to show you, I mean, Dominican Republic has a very solid and strong financial sector. Currently, we have over 49 financial intermediation entities, many of them like Scotiabank, Citibank, Lafis, Banesco, international entities, but also our Dominican entities like Banreservas and Banco Popular Dominicano are extremely strong. We have a very well-regulated system that complies with all international agreements and treaties, and as well, it's completely supervised. So investing in Dominican Republic, will guarantee any investor that their funds will be safe in an economy that's constantly growing and stable. Technology. Dominican Republic is very technologically advanced, and for our region, we are we have the first network access point of the Caribbean region, and also for Central America. The network access point that comes from the United States, from Miami, comes to the Dominican Republic, and then goes into the Caribbean and into Central America. We have over 9 million active internet users. I believe we keep that's now a figure that keeps on growing. We have over 48 innovative tech companies, number 1 in our region. We are the first Caribbean country and third in Latin America with a 5G network. And also we have the highest rated ALC telecommunications regulator in the region as well. Free trade zones, or free economic zones as they're called, they are one of the backbones of our economy and our economic sectors. I mean, even though amount-wise in foreign direct investment is not that high, but they are very important in generating employment. And as Ilana mentioned in her presentation, for example, we have almost 200,000 employments generated. We have over 86 industrial parks and over 100 companies installed in those parks. We export to more than 125 companies. And, you know, the most important thing about our free economic zones is that they represent over 65% of all our exports. And in 2020, this is an interesting piece of data. For example, the pandemic year, you know, our exports only decreased 2% when you compare them to 2019. And that was because of our free economic zones, because they kept operating, working, and that helped the economy remain stable even through harsh times and continue to export and receive, you know, hard capital. Here, more or less, you can see a composition of how our free trade zones are distributed throughout the country. More or less, as you can see, in the northern to northwestern part of the country, we have most of the companies in the parks. Now, if you go per capita, for example, the National District, the area in red in Santo Domingo, will have more, you know, companies and free zone parks per capita in that sense. But yes, that's more or less how you see the distribution of how they're established. And if you go into these areas, which are the, you know, the most underprivileged provinces that we have along the border with Haiti, for example, there's a new legislation as well that provides more incentives for companies to establish there to develop those more impoverished provinces in the Dominican Republic. Here you can see the free zone companies operating by sector in 2022. For example, the service sector, which contemplates BPOs or call centers, is one of the most important sectors there in the services area. Tobacco and derivatives, 17%, textile, agro-industrial products, wholesale, medical and pharmaceutical products, 5%. But even in medical and pharmaceutical products, for example, the Dominican Republic currently has diversified completely its activities within the free zones, for example, because 20 to 30 years ago, it was basically textile. And currently, it has hosted many activities. And for example, in 2022, the highest growing activity within the free zones was medical devices. The Dominican Republic hosts 5 of the top 10 largest medical device companies in the world, established right here in the Dominican Republic, and 8 of the top 30 currently. Our exports, just to show you a glimpse here how our exports have evolved through between 2010 and 2022. We reached a historic high as well in exports in 2021 and then in 2022 as well, with over $13.7 billion in exports of goods we're talking about right now. The Dominican Republic exports through more than 4,000 tariff lines to more than 190 markets. We have over 4,000 exporters that export to different countries, and we have an open economy with over $44 billion in exports and imports. These are some of the world rankings of the products produced in Dominican Republic. We are the #1 handmade cigar exporter in the world, #1 rum exporter to Spain, and 3rd worldwide, #1 circuit breaker exporter to the US, and 3rd worldwide. And as you can see, so on and so forth, many of the other products that we have high ranking within the region or worldwide as well. And these are top 10 demanded products by the Dominican Republic in 2022. For example, light oils and preparation of petroleum, crude petroleum, or bituminous mineral oils, liquefied natural gas, medicines, plastic items, passenger cars, bituminous coal, and so on and so forth. And from the Export and Investment Center of the Dominican Republic, Pro Dominicana, basically, we provide a personalized service to all investors, accompanying them in their investment process, as well as guidance for exporters in order to place their products in international markets. And from the export side, we also provide, market intelligence, export preparation, training in international trade, processing of procedures and certification for exports. On the investment end, also, we provide and gather an investment project portfolio that will contemplate either public projects as well as private projects that are looking for investors in capital or equity, or in some cases debt, to help materialize the project. Also, research, installation, and post-investment follow-up requirements, process flow charts and permits for installation through the corresponding entities, whether they're ministries, directions, or any organization that has anything to do with the permit process for investors. And also we have the foreign direct investment registration certificate, which with that certificate, then the company can opt for the residency for investment for its shareholders and top executives and specialized technicians, and also the technology transfer agreements as well. And recently, we also have the investment guide in more than 10 languages, the Dominican Republic Investment Guide. And very recently, we've developed from the investment side, the one-stop investment window, which is part of zero bureaucracy program from the president. And it's a one-stop shop, basically, where, investors can come in and on a technology platform, submit all the documentation required by the different instances, and it will, send it to each and every one of them, and you can do a follow-up from that. This is to, make more efficient the investment process and not have all investors go to every single entity with all that paperwork and duplicate and copy documents. Through this system, it gives better time, guarantees you can do a better follow-up, online, and all the entities involved, including ourselves, can do a better follow-up to assist and help materialize all investments quicker and more efficiently. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and any questions that you might have, we're here at your request.
Muchísimas gracias, Señor Mister, and for a very comprehensive presentation, very insightful. As you could see from the applauses, this has been such a very informative webinar so far. And I like the fact that you spoke about the business case for the Dominican Republic as an investment destination, the levels of connectivity, the levels of FDI, preferential market access, the various sectors you spoke about: tourism, financial services, technology, renewable energy, for example, and what you do at Pro Dominicana, and how persons who are interested in investing in Dominican Republic could find out more resources, get more resources from you, and find out more information. And there are already several questions in the Q&A. I invite you all, if you have other questions, please put them in the Q&A function, and we will get to your questions shortly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from Ms. Rosario Rodriguez about the national strategy for the export of modern services. We've heard from Mr. Marcial Smester about the DR as an attractive destination for investors. And we'll hear now from Ms. Diana Mora, president of ALICE, which is the Latin American Association of Services Exporters. She's an expert in export development and promotion, including the services sector, with more than 30 years of experience in designing and implementing projects, training, and services in the DR and throughout the Caribbean. And she's currently the general manager of Next Consulting, president, as you know, of ALICE, as well as several other institutions. She was the executive director, of the Caribbean Export Development Agency. And during that time, she oversaw and implemented activities to develop the services sector at the regional level. So over to you, Ms. Mora. Señora Mora, le doy a usted la palabra.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Okay, so you heard from Elena and from Marcial about the Dominican Republic market. So my presentation today will look at a quick overview of some of the services sectors and where we see some opportunities for Trinidad, especially those sectors promoted by the Coalition of Services. Some words about some of the regulatory framework for services that you need to take into consideration in doing business with the Dominican Republic, and some tips on approaching the DR market. So as mentioned before, services is very important for our economy and is partly responsible for the recovery post-pandemic of the DR economy. Some services sectors like construction last year didn't grow as much. As you know, all over the world, interest rates were high, but the rates are coming down. So this year has seen a reactivation on the construction side, which is at 70% of the our GDP, is still very, very important. A lot of investment also at the private sector, a lot of push and special financial provision for low-cost housing, a lot of hotel development. Marcial mentioned the Cabo Rojo Pedernales area, so there are different what we call tourist poles in the DR, which are booming with constructions. There are also mega large projects, railroad, new ports, that some of them are already were mentioned. Some are being done under the PPP, public-private partnership framework, which is something that the Dominican Republic has tried to put a lot of the infrastructure work under PPP model. That means that if you want to participate, if your companies, engineering company, architecture companies want to participate in some of those projects, then you have to look for partners, international and of course in DDR, and be part, of those big projects. Depending on where your company's expertise are, you can look at those opportunities. They are published. The intention of the government, when the government has an intention of infrastructure, they publish that publicly in the there is a directorate for public-private partnerships, and then companies can present their intention. The other way around is that you identify with a partner an opportunity and then present that opportunity to the government. So it can work both ways. Of course, architects and engineers, the same as CARICOM, we need to have, you have to be registered. I know our region CARIForum has been trying to get an MRA, mutual recognition agreement work out within the region. That has not advanced as much. But that requirement has not stopped other international firms that have the same requirement to set up shop in the Dominican Republic. So ICT sectors, although Marcial mentioned some of the innovation initiatives and area, at the public as well as the private sector, there's a lot of efforts, and I think that's true across the Latin American and Caribbean region on digitalization, digital transformation. There is a cabinet, quasi-cabinet established for digital transformation. There is an artificial intelligence strategy that was just launched last month. IT products, of course, are high in demand. It depends on the niche that your company could be looking for. There could be an opportunity or not. Applying existing technology still, especially for SMEs, is important because our SMEs in the region in general and Dominican Republic as well are catching up with technology. So if you have a good solution that helps company apply, absorb, learn, quick, integrate with some of the technology, yes, they are welcome. But of course, you have to have solutions in Spanish, adapted to the legislation of the country, etc. E-government, Marcial mentioned bureaucracy zero programs. The government is investing a lot also on electronic services, digital services, sorry. So there's also there are public tenders for those projects because they tend to be larger and is done by the different entities that are in charge of implementing those solutions. Dominican Republic has an IT specialized university, which is quite good in producing the technical people. Not enough, but it does. Everybody that graduates there gets immediately job even before sometimes they graduate. And there is a cyber park where there are a lot of experimental projects, IT, Internet of Things, augmented realities, all the latest technology. And as mentioned by Marcial, outsourcing services is also a big sector. And I want to pause here because we see a phenomenon where even the larger outsourcing services companies have reached a plateau in the DR market because we don't have enough English-speaking persons that can be hired. So you see there are even companies that are based here, but they are also opening branches or other offices in other services in Jamaica and even in Trinidad, BPOs and other type of services like that. So I think even if you see DR being strong on that sector, because there is a lot of facilities and duty-free facilities for those sectors, there are opportunities even within those companies to expand in the region. And as you have these new facilities in Trinidad, that's also an opportunity to attract those companies that have reached that plateau here. The same thing, you could also have companies investing in outsourcing services here as well, especially if you have to, if you have the other problem, which is maybe you have a client that demands some kind of Spanish additional services, and then you can do the same thing here. So I think even if we're supposed to be competitors, because we are all trying to target the companies that outsource services, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of complementary between the two countries. There is a related IT sector, which is the fintech, which is growing rather fast here. Some of them are exporting to Central America. There are, I think, still opportunities of fintech solutions because, well, some of them work and they are already, because some of them are linked to banks and they are already been implemented. There are others that are standalone solutions and sometimes do not have the linkage with the financial sector that they should have so that they can grow. I know there are initiatives in Trinidad and in other places in the Caribbean that could also have an opportunity here. So fintech companies, especially fintech companies that may come by the hand with financial services entities could be a good option. Tourism, that was also mentioned, tourism and tourism-related services are opportunities for other services sectors. Medical tourism, for example, has been a sector that has grown, has had sustainable growth throughout the years. Over 50,000 people travel to the DR, mostly from the region and from US and Canada for medical treatment. That this is a sector that has allowed the health sector to develop further in the Dominican Republic, because then large investments in hospitals on a specialized center makes more financial sense if you will have not only the DR patients, but that you will also bring patients from abroad. Not all the hospitals are good for medical tourism, but they are enough to generate and growth that demand. In fact, today, the Congress for Wellness Tourism is just, health and wellness tourism just started. And there are a lot of investment, including foreign investment in the health, in health facilities, not only in Santo Domingo, but Punta Cana and other places. Telemedicine is something that it's not grown. I mean, it started with the pandemic everywhere. I guess everybody tried a little bit. It has not grown as fast after the pandemic and after we gone back to in-person assistance, but it still is something that any IT related services I think has an opportunity. There is also a niche for alternative medicine. That means people that are looking for other type of wellness approaches, vegan, mix of wellness with spirituality, all of those things. Those are, some countries are exporting a little bit here, some of those services, but there is a niche for that. We have discussed with the DCS side and the Coalition of Service of DR, the midwife services. There is not such formally recognized midwife like it is in Trinidad, but because of that, because you are more advanced like that, natural birth and doulas and birth coaching and all those things are increasingly being demanded, especially by the new generation of the Gen Z mothers that wants to have an alternative approach and a different experience, birth experience. So that is also a niche, but still an interesting niche to look at. And of course, all the, in general, as it was mentioned, almost 8 million or over 8 million tourists, targeting 10 million plus the 11 million of the population. So there is an interesting market, and every service that could be linked to service the tourist market, it is important, and you should look at that, from the entertainment sector to wellness sector. For example, spas, DR is not as developed as other countries in the region on their spa. Of course, hotels, all hotels or most major hotels have some form of spas, and there are independent spas, places in the different tourist centers, but still there is a lot of opportunity to develop in that area. There is not a national standard for spas. I don't recall if you have it in Trinidad. I know some countries like St. Lucia has it, and there was a discussion about a regional standard for a spa. So any type of work on that area also could have opportunity, expertise in that area could have opportunities here. And linked to wellness, also Dominican women spend a lot of time in the hair salons, not only for the hair, but also for all kinds of taking care of herself and the beauties, at least once a week. 96% of Dominican women goes at least once a week and spend a good amount of their income, disposable income, on those beauty centers. So any new technique for the hair, new applications and services that are related to those could also be of opportunities for in the DR market. Of course, DR is a strong manufacturer of especially hair care products, but services also is an important component. A film industry was already mentioned, with over 125 projects that includes not only feature film, but also documentaries, TV series that were filmed in 2022, means there are a lot of demand for talent and for people to work in the industry. The industry have grown exponentially throughout the year, thanks to a very favorable legislation that allows companies to use the money that they have for tax, that instead of paying tax, they can use 20% of that to invest in film. And that has allowed the local film production to grow, as well as bringing new productions internationally. But one is tied to the other, because you cannot, if you don't have a good industry where you have enough people with experience with cameras, with post-production, with even the most routine activities like driving a trucks or setting up, being an electrician, everything had to be adapted and how to do it in the context of the film industry. And that has grown exponentially. Other services, sectors, industries, of course, hotels, food and beverage, transport, and, you know, from electricity, from other types of utility people, as long as they now have experience, they have worked in 3, 4, 5 film, then they, you know, they get hired by the foreign films, which has more money and there's more work. That means also there is demand for foreign talent, because sometimes there's still not enough to fill. So the companies either bring it from themselves, or they look it out in other places. And this is where having information on who are those people and the platform that was mentioned before that could be useful, so that there's access to talent. And like Ambassador Bencosme says, the 2 film commission of Trinidad and DR met. DR Film Commissioner came here about 3 months ago, and I think they like the experience. So I think there is this opportunity to also to people that have experience in services, the film industry, and there is also opportunity for your people that wants to train and have that track record, so that they can later then work on other films in Trinidad and in other places in the region. So film certainly is an opportunity, and also maybe our 2 authority has to look at the legislation and the fine prints of this, but I think there's also opportunities for co-productions and using each other's incentives to try to maximize the opportunity for the 2 countries. Elena mentioned the sport and video game. That is also a growing area. The ITLA, the university that I mentioned, that is the IT specialized university, has a video game degree. I know that UTT, for example, has animation degree. I think there is opportunity for collaboration, not only at the university level, but also on the technical level, because we still don't have on each other countries all the talent that we may need for a big production for animation film or for large video games. So large outsourcing services for video games or animation may not come to the region, because we don't have the totality of the talent that larger countries may have. So there is, I think, opportunity for linkages with both sectors. Some other consultancy, energy services, of course, although a lot of the expertise in Trinidad is on the oil and gas industry, there are applications of those expertise here. Still a lot of the generation, although the DR is trying to move to renewables, still a lot of the generation is with oil and gas. So I think there are opportunities there. Another opportunity is in the application of the ESG standards, the environmental, social, and governance standard. I think that's an issue that large companies are paying more attention than the MSMEs, but still there is a lot of gaps in how do we apply those standards to our sectors or to our companies. Last year, I had the opportunity to contact some of the large companies. For example, there was a consultant from the US that wanted to come, and she specialized on gender and how corporations can apply gender equality measures. And to my surprise, there was a lot of demand and interest to hear what she had to say and what she had to teach, because even if companies have that in their work plan, even if that's something that they know they have to do, especially to engage with international financial institutions or larger clients, they still don't know how they practically apply those. So how do we apply those environmental principles, those social principles, the governance principle to our corporations? So if you have companies that have done this at levels and have advised companies, multinationals or large companies in your countries, there's space for those type of know-how. Stock exchange, Trinidad and other CARICOM countries have a stock exchange. Dominican Republic have a stock exchange for a while, but it wasn't trading stock. So it just recently, this year, have done the first company that traded a stock publicly. So that means that you have expertise on that area that could be used now that companies know that this is a new way of getting capital for their business. So there will be more demand of that. If you have that experience, for example, working with large conglomerates in Trinidad and in other countries in the region, then those expertise could have an opportunity here. I know the Jamaican Stock Exchange was seeking an agreement with the DDR Stock Exchange. JMMB, for example, started as an entity for a stock exchange here in DDR and grew up. Now they are a full operational bank here, that they have been very successful. So know-how in that area, especially in stocks trading, preparing a company to be ready to go public and all those type of expertise, that is something that will be demanded here. The other thing is, of course, a lot of the businesses in Trinidad have linkages with the rest of the region, have experience with the rest of the region, and offering to be that hub, to be that door, so that companies not only enter to Trinidad, but they can go to Guyana and Suriname and Barbados and other places. That is appealing to many companies that would be willing to pay for that expertise. So I think that's something that you have to think, because sometimes companies already have the knowledge and the know-how, you just don't promote it, or you don't think about using that as a way of promoting your services and your expertise. And of course, logistics was already mentioned. That's also a sector a role that Trinidad has played of being kind of hub for air passengers as well as for cargo for some OECS and some Guyana, Suriname. So I think it's still, as it was mentioned, the DR wants to be a logistic hub as well. So I think there are complementarity on those areas that could also be developed. So let's talk about some of the regulations in DDR to come and work in different modes, not mode 3, but in the other modes. You don't need a license, except of course for those professions that are licensed anywhere, like architects, engineers, lawyers, doctors. You do need to go through a process of validation and applications and getting a license to do so. But the other, to do consultancy and some of the other services, you do not need that. You can also register a company in the DR. Is rather easy. That's one of the things that they are digitalizing more, so it takes less time. And for example, you can register a branch. You don't have to register a new company. You can register a branch fully owned, fully foreign owned. It doesn't. There is no requirement for national ownership. So, and you get equal protection once you're registered there, the same as any other DR company. And you don't have restrictions. We don't have foreign exchange restrictions. So anything that you earn here, you can also take back, and it's 100% US euros. Of course, there are the matter of taxes, and of course, depending on how do you export, you will have to pay taxes on that. If you export mode 1, there's no tax yet, but as you know, there is a lot of discussion internationally about taxing Airbnb, Uber, and all the platforms that Amazon and all the platforms that are selling goods and services online. So that may come in the future. There's been discussion, but nothing yet. So anything that you export mode 1 will not pay tax. Of course, if you are established here, you establish your brand here, you have to pay the local tax because your company, even if it's a branch, it will be treated as a local company and will have to pay income tax according and do the reporting that all the companies in the DR do. One of the challenge for exports of services, especially mode 4, is the income tax deduction of 27%. So that means that, for example, my company that is a consulting company, if I hire a consultant from Trinidad to do a job, even if it's not in the Dominican Republic, let's say I have a project in Guyana and I hire a consultant from Trinidad to work in Guyana, but I pay them from my account here in the Dominican Republic, I will have to deduct 27%. And if you hire a consultant, somebody to come here and do a job, then I also have to deduct 27%. So that is an obstacle sometimes. I remember having discussion, particularly in the energy sectors. Dominican Republic only have 2 countries with double taxation treaty, Canada and Spain. So so all the other countries have to this amount to be deducted, and then that could hinder your competitiveness because you have to take into consideration that 27%, offset it in one way or the other. I already mentioned the free zones. Of course, if you are, let's say, mode 3 and you want to establish here, but you establish yourself in a free zone, because whatever services, let's say you're doing outside services, you need a BPO and you need a Spanish-speaking people, then you can locate in a free zone. You are going to export 100% of what you do there, and then you don't have to pay most of the, well, you don't pay income taxes, and a lot of the taxes you don't have to pay. IP, intellectual property registration, is important that you register your company. That is something that works rather well here. If you have your brand protected, you register here, then you can use it and enforce it rather successfully. If you have material, yes, you have to have it protected. If you have an ISBN or an electronic ISBN from Trinidad, of course, ISBN is an international accepted standard, so that is protected everywhere you go. So it's will also be protected here in the Dominican Republic. So do protect, especially people that offer training and those type of things. It is important that you protect and copyright your intellectual property. And if you have services, let's say training or a system, a process, brand it and protect that access, because even if somebody comes and try to copy you, if you are successful and you get good clients implementing a process or a program and it's branded, then you can protect it and you can differentiate it from whatever other companies offer. A lot of CARICOM companies fear Law 173, which is a law that protects foreign representation of protect DDR firms that represent foreign companies. And if you have an agreement with a company and you, let's say, you want to break that agreement, you would have to compensate the DDR firm for the investment in promoting your business in the country. So that applies for services as well. And the good news is that in the CARICOM DR trade agreement, you have an exemption to that law. I was very happy that in May, there was a mission from TTMA here. They met with the Central Bank of the Dominican Republic, and they felt more assured that the Dominican Republic do implement that exception. But for that exception to apply, you have to include it in any agreement that you make with any Dominican company. So it's just that you have to put it in a clause, and that once that clause is included in your agreement, you will not, the central bank will not register your agreement, and therefore nobody can sue you under Law 173, because being registered in the central bank is one of the prerequisites under that law. So I think that was Expert TT and TTMA were satisfied with that assurances by the central bank. So I tell you, it applies to services, but the good news is you have an exemption. Out of all the countries in the world, only 13 countries have an exemptions, and 12 of them are in CARICOM. The other one is the US. So the rest of the world do business with the Dominican Republic under that law. But the good news is that you have an exemption and you can enforce it by ensuring that in any agreement that you reach with a DR company, you include a clause. We have a model clause that you can use, or it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but at least tells you how that clause can look like if you want to see it. Okay, so some of the tips about doing business with the Dominican Republic. As we discussed earlier, business is casual and business is personal. I remember one, the head of the Commonwealth Roundtable here in the Dominican Republic, Fernando Gonzalez, that once was in Trinidad and says that in the English-speaking world, most of the time you do business with a pen and we do business with a heart. That means everything is personal, and that is something in a business you distinguish when we are sitting on a business environment, and if we go for a drink, that is something different. In here there's no distinction on the two, so that has a lot of impact in the way that we do business, because it's how we approach business. That's one. But then also that casual approach also has impact on the way that follow-up is done or not done. And sometimes those things are misinterpreted by the other part, or well, if I send an email and nobody answered, then they are not interested. You interpreted that, and then when you talk to the other side, they were very interested. They just saw email, they forgot, they didn't reply, but that doesn't mean they are not interested, because they are used for people to push and write and talk or call and, oh, what's happened? Why haven't you replied to me? Those type of approach. So it's very important that we understand the way that we do business and the culture and the approach of that, having that personal linkage is important to do business. I think it's important in any context, but in the DR that is important. So business is personal, and there's no distinction on the two, and you have to understand that and take care that those things are interchangeable, and you understand that. So the question, if I don't speak Spanish, can I do business in the Dominican Republic? Yes, you could. Of course, Spanish helps. It depends on who your clients are. There are areas of business where most people speak English, let's say tourism or outsourcing services. Yes, most everybody speak English, but of course, always language is an important element. So either you have material in Spanish, you have somebody that can also reinforce or support you that is Spanish speaking. That is also important, especially even with bigger clients. You get a corporation, the CEO or the directors, they may speak English fluently, but the other people in the companies may not be as fluent, and so language matters. So please keep that in mind in services. Online presence, that is also very important, because more and more, I mean, that's important everywhere, but here a lot of people are pushing, promoting, having a strong presence online is important. The good news is that you can even start promoting yourself in the market even before you come, even before you're here. We have a lot of companies in Latin America that are promoting, for example, their training programs in Instagram and Facebook, and they're getting business by just promoting themselves, and they're getting people registering for their online training. So, but again, language is important. You can promote yourself in English, yes, but it's also, if you can promote yourself bilingual, then having material is a plus. The other thing is you have to recognize you are going to compete with everybody here. So a lot of companies coming from the US, from Europe, from Canada, from Asia, from Latin America, are coming here and offering those type of services on energy, on ICT, and all the others. So it is a highly competitive environment that you have to know exactly how do you compare and how you differentiate in an international level to compete here. And the other thing is, in services, it's very important, in all businesses, but in services more so, to establish strategic linkages and partnerships. Depending on which sector, if you are doing public-private partnership projects, infrastructure projects, of course, you need partners, you need local partners. But in consultancy and other type of services, with the strategic linkages is enough. But you do need to establish those are important. The local knowledge is important. If you are selling to the government, it is always better to go through a local partner than do it just by yourself. I think I've seen services companies making that mistakes in the past. So how to connect in the market? Online, but have a clear value proposition. How are you going to promote yourself? What are you going to say? What are you going to offer? So be very clear, not just we're offering, not with generic statement, but very specific and niche, so that you enter the market, you have the clients, and then you can grow from there. You can attend the right events. There are different events, more and more in-person events. Our in-person contacts are highly demanded, although we can have this type of exchanges. Establishing that linkage, that personal linkage is important. So market visit, come, talk to people, visit people. We found now that it's harder and harder to get online B2B companies are more informal than usual, and it's easier for them to cancel last minute and all that because now they're more used to the in-person visit. So visiting is still very important, and of course doing the homework, understanding who are the players on each of those sectors. They are key players. They are brands and companies that dominate part of the market. You need to know who they are, and how to either link with them or what to offer that you differentiate from them. And quickly, how do we improve the market access for services on each other's market? Well, maybe this is something that, Alicia, we can include in a panel discussion with the South Freedom Raffle Center. But I think that if we implement the Economic Partnership Agreement between us, the famous Article 238, we can have a comprehensive agreement in services that immediately give us some space to develop each other's services sector. There are other bilateral agreements that can be discussed between Trinidad and Dominican Republic. Transport was already mentioned. Double taxation treaty. Like I said, only 2 countries have managed to get a double taxation treaty. The government is not very, and it doesn't mean this government. Governments of Dominican Republic has been very adverse of double taxation treaty. But I think in an overall negotiations, yes, let's implement EPA, let's do this. In an overall negotiations, that may be something that authorities could consider. Of course, improve connectivity. I see, for example, since Jamaica and Dominican Republic has direct connectivity since the end of last year, you see more flux of business between the 2 countries, of investment in the 2 countries. So yes, connectivity matters, meeting each other matters, opportunity, being 2 hours distance is important instead of, you know, a whole day travel to connect. So more exchanges, associations, reach out to the different associations that are in each other's country, more knowledge of each other, more collaboration in the cultural. If we implement EPA, for example, we have the cultural protocol as well that can be implemented. Know-how on Carnival, you are the master. So I think there's also opportunity to collaborate on that front. Academic collaboration, for sure. I mentioned the example of the animation and video game schools that can collaborate, but there are many other areas in film, in fashion, and in other areas where there could be collaborations, and of course internship, where each other's, let's say, internship in animation can go to Trinidad or Carnival, and then there could be in film and in other areas here. There's also events that are happening which are important to, depending on the niche that you have, that you are part of that. So so you can have there are some trade shows that have B2B. There are sector trade shows. There are film festival, fashion events. Right now, for example, the Medical Tourism Congress is happening. The FinTech Association has an event. The ICT Chamber has an event. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to come, for you to meet stakeholders, potential partners, potential strategic alliance. And I will just mention one that we're having with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce and the Dominican Exporter Association on November 28th on global services in here. So thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Ms. Mora, for your very comprehensive presentation. I'm sure that we all can agree that We took a lot of notes during that session. The remarks given gave us more insights into the Dominican Republic's market and, sectors and rooms for collaboration. So we thank you once again. Thank you to all our speakers who have shared such important information and gave us remarkable presentations. So now we will go into the session that we know you have all been anticipating, the Q&A. And I see that we have some questions here in the chat. So if our panelists are ready, I will just state some that are here, as well as feel free to use the raise your hand option if you would like to ask a question. Okay. So one of the questions that came from Calibra Solutions that asked, please outline information on the withholding tax for products sold by TNT companies, Trinidad companies, to customers in the Dominican Republic. And will this tax be applicable for trade between Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic?
Well, products, there's no tax withhold with the exports of products, but services, if you hire an expert from Trinidad, yes, before you pay the expert, you have to withhold 27%, and it applicable to any country except Canada and Spain that have double taxation treaty. It is a process. You have to demonstrate that you are paying taxes in those countries so that you are not withheld the tax here, or vice versa. You have to prove that you were withheld here, and then you don't have to pay back on your country. But it only applies to those countries. The rest, yes, you have to withhold 27%.
Thank you, Ms. Mora. Ms. Elena, this question is for you. During your presentation, Ms. Sharon Punta would have asked, she stated, do you have scholarships open to support university students doing their masters?
Thank you. No, for student master in the university, no. Just to support, for example, a young entrepreneurs to build an entrepreneurship or support a sector of industrial creative industry.
Thank you. So our next question, going from Sandra Britton, she asked, do you have industry partners in health and wellness who cater to the health of the feet, particularly diabetics?
Yes, there are a specialized center for diabetics.
Okay, so Sandra, you can reach out to us at TTCSI and we'll be able to assist you further. We work very closely with Ms. Tiana Mora. Okay, so another question, do you all do trading in furniture, metal, beds, owning glass products, and what is the process and procedures, hospital beds and alternative wellness programs, sorry.
Well, to sell to those markets, you need to have appointments with the people that buy those type of products. So the purchasing department of the hospitals, well, the hospitals is the public system, so the Ministry of Health in the Dominican Republic. The private hospitals, you have to deal with each purchasing department of each hospital. And there are companies that distribute equipment and products to the hospital, so they can also be potential representatives for you.
So we have a lot of questions on health and wellness and the medical field. So this is another one. What are the biomedical equipment and consumables company or companies to do this type of business with? This is from Suriname, between Suriname and the Dominican Republic.
To purchase those, there is you can we can give you a list. You can send us and we can give you a list of providers. And I'm sure Pro Dominicana as well can give you a list of people that can export those type of products.
So
Okay, so
Diana,
next-
if I could just add, please. Let me see if I could share my screen. So all of these requests, these are business to business requests. So I'm sharing our international services hub. Once you are registered on the hub, there are fields whereby you could add your B2B query, and we would be able to connect you to the respective persons. So make sure you register on the portal so that we will be able to handle these B2B in a timely manner.
Thanks, Vashti. Are there any other questions anyone would like to ask? I know we have Ambassador. Yes, so let me just. So I'd like to recognize two ambassadors who are with us at today's webinars. Ambassador Sanchez from the Embassy of Venezuela, and also Ambassador David Malaga from the Embassy of Peru. And I know Ambassador Sanchez would have wanted to speak a little bit on the air connectivity. Yes, Ambassador.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. First and foremost, my greetings and congratulations to His Excellency Wellington Bencosme, the ambassador from the Dominican Republic to Trinidad and Tobago, and congratulations for such a magnificent webinar. Equally to all the authorities from TTCSI, Mr. Edgehill, Ms. Villadin, Diane, all the panelists. Thank you so much for such comprehensive, important and interesting information. Congratulations and kudos to the Dominican Republic for such impressive progress and achievements in terms of the economy, society, and so on. If you allow me to just add one important industry of the Dominican Republic, the rum and cigar industry, a taste of which His Excellency Wellington Bencosme kindly provide us an opportunity to taste not long ago, and we certainly had a very good time, very good products of the Dominican Republic. Well, as usual, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes promoting, as I've been normally saying lately, Venezuela as an important hub in the Caribbean region. So for Trinidadians, Trinbagonians who would like to travel to the Dominican Republic, an option available, very convenient as well, is through Venezuela. As you all know, Caribbean Airlines flights, they have a weekly flight from Trinidad and Tobago to Venezuela on Saturdays. But then from there, you can connect to the Dominican Republic. There are daily flights from Venezuela to the Dominican Republic. If you allow me to just share with you, Avior, Laster, and Sky High. The latter is a Dominican Republic airline carrier, and the two former ones, Avior and Laster, are Venezuelan. They fly daily to the Dominican Republic. In addition to that, there is La Venezolana, also a Venezuelan carrier, on Thursdays and Sundays. Rutaca, Venezuelan carrier, on Thursdays and Sundays too. And Arbatros, or Venezuelan airline carrier, on Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So there is a large variety of different flights, different days, but basically every day you can connect to the Dominican Republic through Venezuela. And we will, of course, be very happy to have you there. So basically, that's what I wanted to share with you. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. Congratulations to all of you, and especially and particularly to my close friend, Wellington, His Excellency Wellington Bencosme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Sanchez. Ambassador Ben Cosme, would you like to say anything as we wrap up?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Edward, for sharing with us that. I mean, it goes to the issue of connectivity, which has been highlighted in this workshop very much. So I just like to thank once again to TTCSI for the opportunity. I hope that all the participants found the information provided, which is a substantial information provided by our presenters, by Elena, by Marcial, by Diana, helpful. I think it's a lot of information to digest, but the important thing is that you take with you, obviously, the contacts. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I mean, we are here at the embassy to facilitate. So anyone who, any other additional or follow-up interest and question, you can always reach out to the embassy, and we'll facilitate, and obviously reach out directly to either Pro Dominicana, the ministry, Diana, as everyone knows Diana. So it's like, but in any event, we are here to as mentioned, to facilitate, and I hope that the information provided has been helpful for you, and that we can increase our business. So thank you once again to all the participants, and thank you to the organizers.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you all for staying with us throughout this webinar. And now I will hand you over to deliver closing remarks, Mr. Hayden Allen, our director from TTCSI. Mr. Allen.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you all very much for a really exciting and informative session this morning. I mean, just to close, I would like to reiterate some of the key points and the focus of the session. The importance of people and culture in this dialogue and facilitation of trade of goods as well as services. I particularly was heartened because I'm speaking as TTCSI with my TTCSI hat this morning. I was very heartened on with the focus on services, which is our mandate really for Trinidad and Tobago, expanding the export of services across the globe. So your focus on services this morning was really something that was well welcomed. I think I can speak on behalf of all of the TTCSI team to see such detail and effort put into the export of services. It was really something brilliant for us, and we see a lot of lessons that can be learned through this interaction. Again, the importance of people and culture. I loved how Ms. Mora went into some of that cultural intricacies to say that business is personal, and it's something that we all need to understand when we are truly trying to penetrate markets and to build relationships and access certain markets. We need to understand how the market works, and that would be a pillar, I think, of doing business with Dominican Republic. Anybody considering that, look, business is personal, take the people dynamic, the people side of things very seriously. So thank you very much for that. By way of specific thank yous, I would like to thank again the panel for excellent session, very informative and excited, fully engaging. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ben Cosme, for setting the stage for us. Prior to that, our director from TTCSI, Mark, to create the context. So thank you very much for the openings. Moving on with Mr. Marcial Smester. Thank you very much for your unique perspective from the investment side of things as well. I want to go through everyone by name because it's a great effort by the TTCSI and for those who come to speak. So I just want to make sure I touch everyone there. Miss Ms. Lena Rodriguez, for your heavy focus on services. We really appreciate that, and thank you very much for your informative input. And we have also the very detailed presentation from Tiana Mora, Ms. Tiana Mora. It was greatly appreciated. And again, your focus on people and services really opened our eyes and generated some excitement there. I like how, in a nutshell, we could speak about DR being sort of an example for us in tourism diversification. So we're not just talking about the usual, resort and people visiting to have a good time, but for health tourism and for training and so on. This was really wonderful. So thank you very much there as well. For the attendees, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be part of this session. And the more you all come and participate in these sessions, the more traction we will get, the more reach we will have, the more impactful we would be. Thank you very much to the visiting ambassadors who found the time to be with us and also to give their input. It was greatly appreciated. And as you know, nothing here could be done without the input of some sponsors who continue to support us in these efforts. So by name, Exim Bank, thank you very much. First Citizen Bank, Republic Bank Limited, Trinidad and Tobago, National Energy, Merchant Bank Financial, Trinidad and Tobago Limited, NCP, and the Unit Trust Corporation. I thank you very much for your continued support. And to the wonderful TTCSI team led by Vashti, thanks again for all your efforts and putting together a really stellar session that we all can benefit from. I hope going on, we can do these things more on a face-to-face basis and with more, getting that interaction going on a live face-to-face basis. And just to bring it back under the umbrella of people and business being personal, I really look forward to sessions like this being more live and more interactive. So thank you very much for your time, your contribution. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate the effort. And we hope that the TTCSI team can go on and continue to make this as impactful as possible. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And before you leave, we just have just a few more questions. I'm sure it will be brief. One of the questions that was just sent to me, can you ask what is the return on investment expected for attracting foreign direct investment and over what duration?
I assume that's for me, but foreign direct investment, I don't know if they understand what the concept is. It's not like a investment in a certificate of deposit or a stock. Foreign direct investment is investment from a multinational company that comes to establish a subsidiary in their own activity, okay, in a foreign country, creating jobs and wellness for the community and also transfer of technology and knowledge. So depends on the activity. The return on investment for any investor that comes to the Dominican Republic depends on the activity, on the sector, on their own business plan. So it varies drastically. They have to be more specific on what they're referring to. Are they going to invest in renewable energy? Are they going to invest in free zones? In what type of manufacturing? Are they going to invest in a hotel? Depends, varies a lot. There is return on investment, of course, because if not, we wouldn't be growing and not so many people would want to come here to invest. But it depends. You need precise data and specifics so we can more or less let you know how it goes.
Okay. And another question was asked, what is the composition of hotel ownership, locally owned and operated, local owned, foreign operated, and foreign owned, foreign operated?
Well, the composition also, again, it varies, depends on on every project on its own. It can be fully owned by a foreign entity. Okay, they simply establish a local vehicle, but it can be fully owned by a local entity. It can have a joint partnership with a local entity. In many cases, they are looking for that to have somebody local, because it gives them more guarantee when they're working outside their own country and jurisdiction. But it depends on the arrangement that private parties have, and depends on the capital that they have, the equity, to come and invest, because in some cases they don't have all equity and they need a local partner to provide equity as well, or to help out with the financial institutions to provide some financial lines to complete the project. But it varies and it depends on each project and how they want to configure it. But an international entity can be full owner of the project in Dominican Republic. They don't need a local partnership. Although in many cases they like that, because they feel more comfortable as they are coming into a foreign territory and they have somebody with local knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Marcial. Sharon, are you there? You wanted to comment? Okay, Sharon. Denise? Okay, so I believe that's it. Thank you once again, everyone. And please stay tuned to TTCSI's social medias. We have one more webinar coming up on the 15th of November. That's doing business with Colombia, another Spanish-speaking country. So exciting. And also register on our portal if you have not yet, our services portal. That is where you'll be able to do B2B meetings and communicate with persons from all these countries that we are doing business with. Also, if you have further interest and would like further information, feel free to reach out to us and also the embassy as well. We are here at your disposal to connect you to the DR markets and the right people, Mr. Marcial, Miss Elena, and we have Ambassador as well. We are all here in regards to services, and Miss Tiana Mora, not forgetting her as well. So thank you all for joining us, and do have a good day.
Diana, just one thing. We had committed, President, Director, that by the close of next year, November, when we close out this series, we are going to have a full Spanish webinar. So please feel free. We were going
That's a good news.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.